We move into 1965 and the rematch was set in Boston, and Liston trained harder than he'd ever trained before because he wanted to win this fight so badly. He wanted to get that world heavyweight title back. He wanted to get that frustration that he had out. But unfortunately, Ali actually suffered a hernia on Friday the 13th of all days, which was 3 days before the original scheduled bout, so it was called off. Now, many observers and boxing experts believe that Liston would have actually won if the original date had gone ahead. That's something we'll never ever know, but at the time, a lot of pundits felt like Liston had got the eye of the tiger back and he would go in there and he would beat Cassius Clay. If he would have done that, that would have changed boxing history. Would it have changed his life outside of the ring? Nobody will ever know. So on top of that, Liston's manager, who was Jack Neyland, was being investigated, among others, for fixing the first fight. Plus, the FBI were actually investigating a possible fix for the second fight. So there was rumours flying around and obviously evidence out there or intelligence out there to suggest that maybe this rematch was going to be fixed. Now, the cornerman, Johnny Tocco, said that John Bertelli, another gangster associated with the mob, told him that the second fight will last one round, which, when a mobster's telling you this fight is going to last one round, and you can imagine how that's being said to Johnny Tocco. If you're Johnny Tocco, you're thinking, right, if this fight doesn't end in one round, I'm probably going to be swimming with the fishes not long afterwards. So that indicates to me there that possibly that could have been a fix. But the plot obviously thickens as well, because apparently the mob and the Nation of Islam, who was Cassius Clay's religion, who he'd converted to, who he'd become a part of their uprising and their group. Apparently, it was agreed that Liston was going to take a dive in this fight with Ash Resnick, who comes up again, spearheading the negotiations with a plan for Sonny Liston to earn a percentage of Cassius Clay, a la Muhammad Ali's future purses. Again, there's so many theories going around that this was something that was very pivotal in Sonny Liston's rematch with Cassius Clay, a la Muhammad Ali, because the fight itself, history obviously shows us that it looked like it was a dive, it looked like he quit, it looked like the punch never landed, and hearing stories like this start to make theorise whether this is actually a possibility about this.
Oh, absolutely. Apparently this Ash Resnick meeting and the fact that he was going to get these future earnings from his purses and the benefit of Ali having a world title wasn't necessarily financial gain for the Nation of Islam. It was more to do with the fact that they would have a Muslim as the heavyweight champion. So you can understand why they would have this meeting with Ash Resnick, who was obviously affiliated with the mob. So, with all that's going on, nobody wanted to touch this fight. Everyone's being investigated. All the top states around America did not want to know, and that's why this fight ended up in Lewiston, Maine. And it was agreed to be made on the 25th of May, 1965. Now, just before that, or I think it may have just been as it was announced, Malcolm X was murdered as well, who was obviously affiliated with the Nation of Islam. So there was so much controversy that surrounded the second fight that you can't help but think it was a fix. And then especially when you actually go into the fight itself.
That fight itself is known as the Phantom Punch fight because the right hand that landed from Ali on the top of Liston's head, it didn't look like it landed. It didn't look like it really hurt him. It didn't look like the sort of a punch which would knock down a heavyweight the size of Sonny Liston. It looked like it was a glancing blow that might have just skimmed the top of his head. But people suggest that looking back at the footage and using the technology of today to slow it down, it actually looked like it really landed and scrambled his senses and landed on his temple. But I think a lot of people do feel that this fight was through and it was fixed and it was all mob affiliated, and there's so much controversy and actual evidence out there to suggest that this fight actually might have been thrown by Sonny Liston. You've got to remember at this point, Sonny Liston, as we've put you in the picture of his life and his career outside of the ring, is affiliated with the mob. He's had a shit upbringing. People absolutely hate him. He's had to move from St. Louis to Philly to Denver because the police are constantly harassing him. So he's getting to the point where he's absolutely getting that pissed off where he's thinking, you know what, if they're going to give me a deal where I'm going to get money out of this guy's future fights, and this guy looks like he's potentially going to go on to be a big star, then I might as well just throw the fight and sit at home and take the rewards and reap the rewards of that. But that was never going to be the case, even if this was true, and even if this was what actually happened. It was never going to be the case because he was always in bed with the mob. As Liston attempted to get up from the Phantom Punch, he fell over again before finally returning to his feet with the referee, who was the famous fighter, Jersey Joe Walcott, ready to allow the fight to continue. Unbeknown to Jersey Joe Walcott at the time, Liston had actually already been counted out. At the ringside, they have someone who obviously does the timer, and the timer had actually said he'd been counted out. So the fight was stopped, and Ali had won again. The crowd were absolutely furious, and you can hear the chants of fix, fix, fix.
Yeah, and I can't help but think it was. The more I look into it and the more you read about stuff, it's just everything that surrounds this fight suggests to me that this was a fix. And I think even everybody knew it. You know, there's interviews of fans that went and they all said the same. It was a fix, and it just seemed that way.